My name is Peter Draxton. I'm 42 years old, a behavior therapist for this decade. There's so many advantages to being alive right now. From technology to education to all the social components of where we live, there is so many advantages to living right now. Just if we were only talking about technology, there's if you go back the iDevices, just an iDevice alone, having your entire music collection in your pocket, available to you at any time. It's so different than the decades before, where you have radio, and that's the introduction to your music, and then you go to the record store or CD shop and have to buy your music. You could sit at home and peruse iTunes and pick what you wanted. For pop culture and music, or somebody who enjoys that is endless. Now, if it's computer time, the teacher says, okay, go to the shelf and get your iPad. And the kids get up, run, and it's right at their desk. Not only is that just the obvious time saver, but it's a much more comfortable way of learning and being part of that classroom environment. But then, if we have the ability, and the scientists spend so much time figuring out ways to prolong life, why not? I mean, we're moving forward. There's a reason behind all of it. Barack Obama, politics aside, I feel very fortunate to be alive in a time where an African American president was elected into office. Social component, it makes, I feel very proud. He's a very lucky man. He's very brave, and with some of the things he's done, I don't agree with all of it at all. Some things I do agree with, some I don't. But it's to be alive during this time. I honestly didn't know if I'd see it. If you would have said that to me 10 years ago, I would have rolled my eyes and said, well, I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice, but I don't know. There's a lot more social acceptance, depending on where you're at in the country. I'm sure there's a lot more acceptance to that deeper understanding of the heart wants what it wants, and we don't have a right to tell anybody otherwise. We're all the same. I mean, who am I, or is anybody else, to say somebody can't do something like that? You know, I think it's that simple. I think people are much more accepting of things. You know, as time rolls by, that's how things work. I was driving to school at a very early morning college algebra class at a community college, and I was driving on the Sepulveda Pass, and I heard it on the radio. I was listening to NPR that a plane had crashed into one of the towers, and I had to get gas. And when I pulled into the gas station, the little market inside was packed with people, and I got to where the door was at and looked in, and we're up there all watching this television monitor. This woman crying, and there was a man shouting these obscenities at about Muslims, and it was terrible, shocking. No one really knew how to feel. Like, it was such a paralyzing sense of helplessness that watching this massive building burn, and then we all saw another plane crash right in front of us, and it was I'd never had that feeling before.
My name's Robbie Olson. I'm 19 right now, and I go to OCC, but I'm planning on transferring to either UCLA or Berkeley as a English major, or possibly peace and conflict studies. cool thing about growing up in the 2000s is we're becoming a lot more tolerant. Where the technology is really advancing like pretty crazy, and so a lot of things are going to start happening. There's going to be a turning point, I think, where our generation is really going to show people how we're going to change the world. So technology in and of itself is neither good or bad, in my opinion. It's how we use it. So I think a lot of things with the computers are really good, especially since it allows so many people to stay in touch with other people. Our brother Austin, he's talking to people all around the world. Like that's crazy stuff. And of course, technology advancements in energy is something that we really need to put a lot of our money into. So, like I said earlier, it just reflects the youth. Like, apathy is pretty prevalent all over, but the one good thing that we're apathetic about is just like racism and gay rights. Like, we really just don't care. So I think the president stating that is just a reflection of how the youth is going to vote in the coming years. Well, I was sleeping at first, but when we did wake up, we'd always watch TV when we'd eat breakfast, and we weren't watching cartoons that morning, so it was kind of weird. And I just remember we were watching the news the whole time, and so that obviously signified something drastic and catastrophic had happened, like that with Katrina. I mean, with the earthquake in Japan, like just something so catastrophic. It just unifies the entire world, and everyone's paying attention, and everyone's sending prayers and whatnot. And so, yeah, it definitely helped unify our nation. Not that we weren't unified before, but it really just got people who may or may not have been relating to be relating with each other. I've often thought about growing up, what it would be like to grow up in other time periods, but as I've talked to a lot of older family members and friends and whatnot, every time period has its problems. Everyone, and they don't, as far as like what I've gotten the message across, it's like, it's not like you realize you're in some crazy historical moment in the moment. Like, you don't, looking back, you're like, oh, all that did happen. So right now, I mean, with the Arab Spring and just like all these Occupy protests and all this stuff that is going on, this is a crazy historical moment right now. And so even though we may not realize it, we're making history. So our generation is really going to be able to set the standard for what's going to happen. And it's both terrifying and extremely exciting at the same time.